You're listening to Panthers on Tap. I'm Curtis Rauen, joined by Bryson Karbley. We're just two fans sharing our love for the game and Carolina Panthers football. So join us, crack open a cold one, some bubbly, a little wine, some scotch. We don't care, whatever makes you sleep better at night. Before we dive into the episode, a little self-promotion. Stop what you're doing. Go give us a follow on Twitter at Panthers on Tap. Join the discussion on our Facebook group. We have over 2,500 members. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcast. Just search Panthers on Tap. We sound like a broken record at this point. 1-12 on the season. Panthers fall again to the Saints. Bryson, I thought they had a shot in this one. I really did. Defense played well enough to win that game, I guess, and like they have pretty much most of the season. But this offense just that. I mean, they're on the track and then a wheel falls off and the rest the whole shit breaks apart.
Yeah, the scheme obviously isn't there for anything to happen on this offense, unfortunately. They're struggling every week. I mean, the run game was good, right? They rushed for a significant amount of yards, but didn't really result in points too often. You know, they get to the 1 yard line and can't score a touchdown. So, yeah, it was a frustrating game. The defense played well for 3 quarters, kept them in the game. And coming out at half, you know, they came out and kind of made it a close game. And I thought maybe this is when the Panthers actually put things together and might have a chance at a win. But unfortunately, like you said, the wheels did come off, and here we are sitting at 1-12.
Yeah, you know, the run game, you mentioned it as, I mean, they've gone back to what they were good at last year. And that's, you know, pounding the ball and, you know, building off of that. And obviously we've seen success with that these last couple of weeks. Big week for the backs this week. Both Chuba and Miles Sanders had really good weeks. But yeah, that offensive series, when you have Miles Sanders running for like 50, 60 yards, whatever it was, you get first and goal on the 1 and you can't punch it in. I mean, if that doesn't show and represent this season, it's just bad sequencing altogether. I mean, you can't have a play like that pop off and not punch it in the end. And they go in first and goal. They try to run with Miles Sanders. I thought they probably should have put Chuba in. I mean, the guy you could tell he was pretty damn tired towards the end of that run. And Chuba, I feel like, has done a really good job of not dancing when he gets the ball, because I feel like Sanders does that a lot. He just straight ahead. And they didn't bring him in. I thought that was a bad coaching decision. And they run it with Sanders, get stuffed, and then they run 2 passes. I think the second one they lost yards on, or it might have been a second run. I can't remember exactly, but they lost a couple yards. And then you bring up a 3rd and 4th or 3rd and 4 and whatever it was. And it's just like, here we go again. I mean, it's just the same old script over and over and over.
Yeah, and then you watch around the league when the Panthers aren't playing and you see other teams' offenses operating efficiently or even just looking competent, and it feels like that.
Mediocre even.
It feels like it's just almost impossible for Carolina to even look somewhat like an NFL offense. You got, you know, of course you see Tommy DeVito and the New York Giants, you know, pulling an upset. You got the Titans down 14. They come back and win versus the Dolphins. And then you got the Panthers that struggle to score points every single week. And
you got Joe Flacco coming off the couch.
Yep, throwing for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. So it's frustrating, and obviously it comes down to coaching and scheme and the lack of talent on this roster from top to bottom on offense, at least. And, you know, we talk about it every week. Bryce just he either doesn't have time or he doesn't have anyone open. So I feel like he made some good throws in this game. He made some throws that he should probably wants back, and a couple of misses on some deep shots, like the one to Mingo right before half. But, you know, I think DJ Chark, 2 passes hit him in the face mask, dropped both of them.
He has been such a disappointment, dude.
Yeah.
Such a disappointment.
So very disappointing. And then I think Sullivan dropped one as well. You know, Bryce, he's doing what he can, man. He's doing what he can every single week. And he can be better overall, but I think, unfortunately, with the combination of everything we talk about every week of coaching and lack of creativity on the offense and lack of skill. It's just the same thing over and over. It's not going to result in anything different. I don't think the offense is going to make any significant strides before the end of the year, and it just is what it is at this point.
Yeah, one thing I think you mentioned in there was the deep shots. Obviously, Bryce had the one, and I even hate tweeting out criticism against him because I'm gonna be honest, when he's not doing good, he needs to be called out for it, but it just opens up a whole can of worms to all the Stroud boys. And but for Bryce, he missed one. I mean, you got to hit that to Mingo. Some say maybe Mingo gave up on the play. I don't know. It's that one. It was hard to see. I tried to watch it back a couple times to see, but Bryce just got to hit him on stride. That's a touchdown, and that changed that would have changed the complexion of the game. I mean, you go into half. I want to say it would have been 10-14.
14.
Yeah, 14. So, and instead you're going in 14-3, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think that changes things, and it also doesn't help when Bryce really hasn't had that opportunity all season, obviously. And I think he might get a little antsy in the pocket now when there is pressure and kind of speed up his footwork. But, those, like we've said all season, those chances are few and far between. But this game, I was just looking at it, they had 10 attempts past 20 yards. I mean, that was the most attempts they've done deep all season long. Yeah. So they definitely, I think that was just based off of what New Orleans was playing, but they did take shots. Bryce had a couple. I mean, the Chark one where he hit him on that one way up in the air, it just kind of floated in there, and it about and that happened a couple of times. If you're going to press Bryce, you got to press some of these other guys. These guys need to make plays, and it's the famous line, you can't catch it for them. Like, these guys need to make plays when they're called upon, and you've time after time after time, and it's a different guy every game except for Adam Thielen. I think he's the only reliable one. Chark and Mingo, you got to come up, and even I think Sullivan might have had a drop in there, I think, at one point. I'm not entirely sure. But I thought there was one to him on the sideline that he had missed too. So, these guys got to come down and make plays, because it's those things, and they all add up, and it's the difference in the game. So I thought overall the offensive line played, obviously better in this game. You do have that one famous play where, Bryce Young I think they had 8 guys in the box, and it was the fumble play where, he had no shot there. I felt really bad for him. That was just brutal. And then Icky I saw the replay on it. He got smoked on the edge, and the guy came free. And it was just at that point, you want Bryce Young to just go down. But it is what it is at that point.
Yeah. Let's look at those offensive line grades.
Let me bring these up here. They were actually really good. The best they've had all season, I think. If I can get my mouse, I'm sorry, my mouse just keeps on freezing up here. And there we go. But yeah, overall, there was some blues in there, and that's 90s. So,
yeah, I can imagine with the run game getting 200 yards, I'm sure that most of their run blocking grades were really good.
Yeah, Cade Mays played really well, actually, if you're going off of this solely. So let me pull this up. Sorry, I didn't have this freaking ready for us here, but I was actually kind of surprised looking at it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I'll get rid of this so you can actually see. There we go. But yeah, Nash struggled. But I think he's still trying to find his footing, but you see the stats. He didn't give up too many pressures. Another big thing I think with this offense line this week was penalties. There was a limit of penalties, which is good. Icky had the only one in the game, so that was promising. Looks like Bozeman obviously has struggled with the pass blocking. But overall, I feel like that's probably one of the higher end numbers for him, right? For this season, overall.
Yeah, that overall is nice. I mean, Cade Mays apparently had the game of his life run blocking. That's crazy to see, but Taylor Moton every single week consistent across the board, pass blocking almost a 90, run blocking 71, overall greater than 80. He is one of the best right tackles in the NFL, and man, I just wish he could play left tackle. That would be
Yeah,
nice.
no
But
shit.
but yeah, Icky obviously he struggled a little bit. He had a couple plays where he was beat pretty bad, and um, it showed on the tape. But I'm so frustrated with him every week. It seems like he's getting beat by the simplest pass rush moves, and it's like I don't know if he's in his head or because he's got all the athleticism in the world, but here we are week in and week out wondering how he's getting beat by these easy, typical pass rush moves, and it sucks. But hopefully he can bounce back and maybe next year under a different scheme have a better year because Bryce needs him to be the guy. Like we cannot be looking for a left tackle going into Bryce's third, fourth, fifth year. Like Ikem Ekwonu needs to be the guy. So I'm hoping he is, and we move forward. But Bozeman, of course, had the sack there. It seems like Bozeman's kind of improving a little bit week by week. He's not as bad as he was to start the year, but
I think that has a lot to do with the run game, man. I mean, I
yeah,
think that sets the tone for a lot of these guys, and you're seeing that Tabor is going back to what Wilkes did, really. You obviously don't have a fullback in their I formations or anything, but you can see that the run game has been a focus, and Frank obviously didn't want to do that. I mean, he wanted to spread it out and distribute, and so I think slowly, I don't think it's enough yet, but you're starting to see a little bit more wrinkles with Thomas Brown. I still think some of his sequencing and play calling at times is questionable. Exactly what the red zone series like that, you got to punch it in there. There's no excuse whatsoever for that. So
I don't understand why. Like I think you mentioned it last week. I don't understand why they don't run like a power I formation, put someone like Cade Mays at fullback, and then just you're on the 1 yard line, run that 3 times. Like I don't understand. I don't think I've seen him once in the power any power formation running the ball on the goal line attempting to score. They always run out of shotgun. I don't understand it. It's so frustrating. You're setting yourself back 5 yards from the line of scrimmage, and you're on the 1 yard line, but it's week in and week out. It's the same thing over and over. And I would love to get the coaching staff's answer as to why they love to run out of shotgun. Like, I can't think of one reason, one positive to do that.
I mentioned this probably 5-6 weeks ago, and I know you probably don't agree with this. I am still of the mindset. I do not understand it. I don't care he's your first round pick. I don't care how small he is. Why aren't they at one attempt I want to see of him doing a QB sneak? I want to fucking see it. And if it fails, it fails. But I would love to just see what he can do. He's small, and I think that it gives him a little bit of advantage to sneak in those little creases to get in there. He might not give you a good big push, but I think if you have guys behind him, you see what the Eagles do with it. I want to see it once. I know everyone brings up the Andy Dalton stuff, but I think it's worth a try. And how many QBs get injured on a QB sneak? Because I sure as hell can't. I know that's a big emphasis in the injury aspect, but I'm trying to think of QBs that have gotten injured on that play before, and I can't think of any off the top of my head. I'll still push for it. I know no one else will because I get it. He's number 1 pick. You trade all this shit for him, but I would try it, man. I don't get it, but
yeah, I mean, when you're this desperate for points, you got to try anything. So, I wouldn't be opposed. Yeah.
And you mentioned the Cade Mason thing. Put Tommy Tremble back there in that fullback role. He did it at Notre Dame. Put him at the fullback role. Let him block, or even Ian Thomas, and then have Chuba behind him. Like I don't understand that, but
this is next level offensive thinking here that the Panthers just haven't reached yet. So if they would like to reach out to us and get some ideas, we're more than willing to help because we would like at least 2 wins this season.
Yes, it's like holy shit. You got those when they don't have a lot of opportunities. So when you get in those areas, you gotta come away with touchdowns. So I don't know where I was going with that. I thought I had something. I lost it, but I wanted to talk about the defense. We'll get into Brian Burns here in a little bit, but Dante Jackson, dude, with J.C. Horn back, when J.C. Horn is covering, your number one guy on offense, I think Dante, when they're both healthy, they can be a decent tandem. Like, he played pretty damn well in this game against the Saints, and I get it. The Saints offense has struggled with Derek Carr, so I don't know how much you can put on that, and if he was missing guys or just not seeing it, but want to pull these numbers up here quick. 6 targets, he allowed 1 reception for 11 yards, and he forced 4 incompletions with a 39 passer rating against him. Like, I think that might be one of his best games, barring one with like an interception. Like, he played really well in this game. When JC Horn's hurt and he is the number one guy, I think that's where you see the struggles. But when he is not the sole focus of that DB room, I feel like he can play well if he stays healthy. But I just wanted to talk about a little bit.
I agree, and I think that he's played well. He's played more games well this season than bad. I think the one game that sticks out in my head is the Miami game versus Tyreek Hill, who's the fastest receiver in the league. But I think Dante Jackson has really, for the most part of the season, played really well, actually. And he's not really someone that you're in a position to move on from after this year, based on obviously J.C. Horn's injury history, and then Dante's been available for most. I think he's missed 1 or 2 games, and he's been playing well. So Dante's really stepped up and been there for this team, and I think hopefully going into next year, JC can maintain his health and stay on the field. And yeah, I agree. I think it's a very formidable 1-2 cornerback combo that can be potent on the field. They've proven that they can be. So I think that's hopefully going to be the same for next season, and Carolina can count on those guys. And really the biggest thing is just health-wise. But yeah, defense-wise, I think, like we talked about to start, they really kept this team in this game for a while, and until the wheels just fell off in the fourth quarter. But Derek Carr, I don't know if it's the defense or Derek Carr. I know Derek Carr sucks, but the defense also played really well. And one guy in particular, Derek Brown, had, I think, one of the best games of the year for him. And he just, every week he's getting better and better. It seems like he's having the breakout season Brian Burns should be having. And the one play that sticks in my head is when he threw Alvin Kamara like a little rag doll. And he is one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL, and he is the best defensive player on this team. And he's just so exciting to watch. His comments today about if they have to be at home on the couch, they want everybody else to be at home on the couch. Like, his attitude he brings, he's one-on-one, and I'm glad he's a Carolina Panther. Exciting. Probably might be my next jersey purchase. I don't know, but really, really excited that he continues to show the growth that he has on this team. And then, nothing really sticks out to me otherwise. J.C. Horn had the nice pass breakup on Chris Olave on the deep pass. Thought J.C. Horn had a good bounce back.
Yeah, that was a hell of a play. A little underthrown. I think Carr could have thrown him out there a little bit more. That one scared me when it was up in the air. But yeah, that was a hell of a play by him.
Yeah.
Woods too has been playing really well.
Oh yeah,
Xavier Woods. Is he the one who had the pick? Was that last week or this week? I can't remember. I know he had a pick like recently.
I think Derek Brown had the interception this week.
Oh yeah, that was mass. Xavier Woods was the week before. I think it was on Baker. He picked him off. But yeah, that was another guy I just wanted to mention. Let's talk about Brian Burns, because you posed the question this week on Twitter that a lot of people I figured we were going to chime in on. Is Brian Burns worth the 25 to 30 mil a season? What was behind this, Bryson?
Just frustration. Here, let me pull up his numbers real quick here.
Oh boy.
I'll
let you, while you're pulling that out, I'll take the reins here while you're
okay. Yeah, you go first, and then I'll
go. Yeah, I think he is. I think what the market is at, I think he is deserving of those numbers, because I feel like a lot of people want to base it off of Mason Crosby's contract, but I just don't think that is where the edge rusher market is now. So based off of that, yeah, I do think you got to pay him. And you see time and time again when you let a guy go like this, he's going to get paid this amount of money somewhere else, and he's going to dominate, and then everyone's going to be bitching that we don't have this guy anymore. And it's happened over and over again with Carolina. And I think edge rushers are the second most important position on the field besides quarterback. And Carolina does not have an edge rusher besides Brian Burns whatsoever. So yes, I do think he is worth this amount of money. Has he dipped this year? There's no doubt about it. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I think he last year he played better last year than he has this year. Now that doesn't say he doesn't have a strong finish. We'll see. I hope he does eclipse or he gets double digits again this year like he did last year. But without a doubt, I think this guy needs to be resigned, and I do think they go the route of the tag. And they got a lot of big decisions this offseason. It could be a tag and a trade for Burns. It could be they tag him and then trade him to another team to get picks back. I don't know, but I think he is very valuable. And yes, I without a doubt will say he's worth that kind of money.
Yeah, and I agree that I think he's extremely valuable to this team because of the situation they're in. I really don't think they have much of a choice because who are they going to rely on? YGM to rush the passer? Obviously, they would probably go draft someone or sign someone as an edge rusher if they let Brian Burns go. But yeah, I mean, this year, 22 solo tackles, he ranks 150th in the league. 6 sacks, he ranks tied for 41st in the league, and one forced fumble, he ranks tied for 65th in the league. 0 interceptions, which doesn't really matter, but I don't know where his pressures are. Maybe you could look that up on Pro Football Focus, but I don't even think those are as high as they normally are. People say he needs help, or people say he's checked out because he's not getting paid. Both of those excuses are not acceptable for an elite edge rusher. There are edge rushers across the league that don't have help on the other side that perform to a better ability than what Brian Burns had so far this season. I understand the frustration that he has, rightfully so, about not being paid. But as we sit right now, if you're paying him $30 million and he has 6 sacks going into week 13 or 14, you're not happy as an organization, and the contract's not looking great to this point. So I do think Carolina is going to pay him. I think they need to pay him. But when I weigh the options here, and it just makes me think, like, you could spend 25 to 30 million on Brian Burns, or you can go invest that money on the offense and get Bryce Young more receivers, get them better offensive linemen, get them, there's just, you just have to weigh the options, I guess. And I think the defense without Brian Burns would still be a decent defense. I don't think it would be terrible because I do think that they would either draft a up and coming edge rusher or sign someone in free agency. And then if they were to not re-sign him in this situation, I think the defense could still be top 20 in the league, and then invest that money on the offense and improve the offense because it's so putrid. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of options to weigh, and the Panthers got a lot of flack for me even, and from you, for not signing Brian Burns this offseason to a contract extension. And as we sit right now, it's not really looking like the worst thing that they didn't. It sucks for Brian Burns, but 6 sacks going into week 14 is not acceptable for an elite edge rusher. And I don't know if you have the pressures or not, but
I'm trying to find them still.
okay.
You're good. Yeah.
And like I said, I don't think his pressures are even top 10 right now, and that's his bread and butter.
Hurries, is that what they call him? That's what it's got to be, huh?
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Everyone calls him differently.
Yeah.
He's way down here. He's 65.
Yeah,
He's got 65 hurries. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I was about to say that's 60.
There's no way he's only got 10. They got him at 10. There is no fucking way he only has 10 pressures.
Yeah, I mean, it's not been good, Curtis.
They don't even have him at 6 sacks on PFF, so I don't know what the hell that's about.
What do they have him at?
But I know he has 6 sacks. I literally saw the graphic on the TV the other day.
Yeah,
they have him at 3. What the? That don't even make sense.
Those stats might not be updated, but yeah, I mean, I would imagine he has more than 10 pressures, but I don't think it's much more than that. And
I wonder if it's different if you put it. Anyway, keep going. You're good.
so yeah, I mean, just to sum up everything I was saying, I think Carolina should pay Brian Burns. I think that they don't really have a choice because of a lack of talent on the defensive line, opposite of Derek Rauen on the line. YGM has played better this year. Justin Houston, I forgot he was on the team until I thought of him just a couple minutes ago. He's injured, but I mean, they got to get him some help. But when you're supposed to be, like we talked about at the beginning of the year, a top 5 edge rusher in the league, you shouldn't have to rely on help on the other side of the offensive line or defensive line to at least get double-digit sacks. 6 sacks is just piss poor, and he's just one player on a whole roster of players that have played like shit this year, except for a couple guys. And I don't think anyone's going to argue that Derek Brown is the best defensive lineman on this team, though. And I think Derek Brown has cemented himself as that. And if you had to choose between Derek Brown and Brian Burns, it's not close for me at all. Derek Brown is getting paid, and Brian Burns is looking for a new team. So I don't think that's going to happen. But just choosing between those two guys, that would be my choice.
Oh, I mean, there's no doubt Derek Brown has been the best defensive player on the team this season. I don't think anyone can argue against that. But I would say last year, I think Brian Burns had a hell of a season based off of circumstances. So it's tough. The other thing I worry about too is you say, well, they can go out and get a guy. Like, who are you going to go find a Brian Burns in the second round of the draft next year? I have no faith in that whatsoever at all.
Ojulari, BJ Ojulari is playing pretty well for the.
I mean, if
Giants.
Scott Fitter is still around, I have no faith in them going out and getting anyone.
That's fair.
For that matter. I don't know what the free agent edge rusher market is. And this just goes back to Scott Fitter's failures. If they were offered that much and you weren't willing to pay the guy, then why the hell didn't you trade him?
Yeah.
But I really do think the tag is going to be the route they go, and we'll see where it goes from there. Do they trade him or do they keep him and sign him to a long-term deal? But I do think he's going to get less money. I mean, there's no doubt he's dropped this season. One thing to take into account, and we probably won't know this until the offseason, but has he been playing hurt? I know he had that elbow injury with the big ass cast on his arm, and then he also he was out with an ankle injury today, and he had surgery on his ankle this offseason. So I don't know if that's bothering him too. So I think we'll find that out later in the offseason, but there's no doubt he has dropped off this year. I mean, and
he's cost himself money.
Carolina, without not signing him before the year, I mean, they're obviously going to benefit from that to work them into a lesser of a contract and pay them less. So I think that's kind of worked out in their favor, but I'm sure it's very sour on Brian Burns' end of getting anything done long term at this point. So
yeah,
nice guys finish last. I mean, it has been proven. I mean, you had guys like Bosa sit out the entire training camp. Brian Burns was there from day one in Wofford, practiced, and Bosa's sitting here with a contract and Brian Burns doesn't have one. So clearly I'm sure he'll rethink the way he proceeds ever again with a contract here of what he's going to do, because that's clearly, it didn't help him out at all. So just another unfortunate situation with this Panthers team in front office. I do want to talk about something that has come up a lot lately, and it's a lot. I really like to go back to see where the smoke was early on when Carolina was looking for a new coach. And I think initially it was David Tepper is going to try and go out and get Sean Payton. That was like the thing early on. And obviously that didn't happen. He's in Denver now. But there has been a lot lately about the guy up in New England, 6 Super Bowls as a coach. But the report today, I'm reading this right off the screen. Sources close to the organization tell SB Nation that in late November, Panthers owner David Tepper inquired about what it would take to trade for Belichick following the 2023 season. Bryson, I know where your head's at with this, but break it down. What do you think of this?
Mm. Just go look at the New England Patriots record, where they rank offensively. Uh, what he's done without Tom Brady in New England up to this point. I mean, we've seen the fall off of Mac Jones. They can't get any good quarterback play. They have failed to develop quarterbacks since Tom Brady left. They failed to really win anything. I think they made the playoffs with Mac Jones once, but uh, I mean, it's. I think Bill Belichick. It's time to hang it up. He's old as shit. Uh, he's an asshole. Um, which I mean, you could say the same thing about Jim Harbaugh, which I like. He's old as shit and he's an asshole, but at least Jim Harbaugh is continuing to win on the level he's on. Uh, Belichick, I mean, they got the second worst record in the NFL, right behind the Panthers. And you're going to go hire that coach? I mean, that sounds like what we did last year when we hired Frank Reich from a team that he got fired from on a team that had a bad record, and just because of the pedigree, the history that he has with the greatest quarterback of all time, you're going to go hire that guy because of that. And
But I wouldn't compare him to Frank. I don't think that's fair. Like Belichick's a proven winner. Frank is not. Like,
well, I'm saying just like this, their last season in.
and I guess I can't say Frank isn't like Frank isn't a proven winner to Belichick's level.
Yeah.
I guess would be a better way to say it. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. You're fine. And I think that all of Belichick's success as a head coach is tied to Tom Brady. And Tom Brady leaves, goes to Tampa Bay, and we all know they won a Super Bowl when he goes to Tampa Bay. What has Bill Belichick done since Tom Brady left New England? You know, if Tom Brady comes with Belichick and he comes out of retirement and comes to Carolina and wants to, I don't know, be a quarterback coach or something, or an offensive coordinator, then maybe that's something I would entertain. But I think Belichick just doesn't have it anymore. He's, like I said, he's getting up there in age. The offenses are changing. His defenses are somewhat competitive for the most part, and especially if that means he's bringing his ugly ass son with him to be the defensive coordinator. That I don't want to see that mullet on my fucking sideline. And it's just, I think this would 100% be something that Tepper would do. I do not doubt Tepper called New England and said, what will it take to trade for your coach? And I'm sure New England said something crazy. But then we all see the reports that they've already made the decision to move on from Belichick after this year. Like that happened after the Colts loss. That Robert Kraft made that decision and they're moving on from Belichick, which is a good decision because they need a new coach because Belichick's not good anymore at his job. So, and he's probably just worn out his welcome in New England. I do not want Bill Belichick as my head coach. I think that there are way better options. We've gone this route before with a retread, and I know I'm sounding a little bit wishy-washy on it because of my want for Jim Harbaugh, but I think that's a little different than this situation because Jim Harbaugh has won every single where he's been, and Belichick has not won in a while without his quarterback. So I'm good. I'm good. Let him go to Washington. Let him go to the Chargers. Let him go wherever. I don't want him in Carolina. I do not want him in Carolina.
Yeah, I'm gonna just step back for a little bit and let me kind of try to lay this out from my point of view, and that's here's the negative, or here is the why I couldn't see it happen. So Carolina went with a coach last year that was fired. Okay. Frank Reich, second coach fired last year, and he was the first coach hired this coaching cycle. So I have a hard time believing Tepper would want to go out and get a guy that was just fired. But the caveat to that is Bill Belichick. Why I couldn't see it happening, and just things aren't aligning. Several national reporters, including Adam Schefter, who has been pretty spot on with Carolina stuff. I think he was one of the early ones that said Bryce Young was going to be the quarterback last year, very early on. And not a lot of people believed it. And here we are, Bryce Young is the QB. He has said time and time again, David Tepper wants a young, offensive-minded coach. And he has said that several times lately. So that's another reason. And also, David Tepper himself said he would love, and I don't know how much weight you want to put on this, but he would love to have a coach with him for 20, 30 years. And obviously, Bill Belichick is at the tail end of his career and in his 70s or whatever his age is. So that's where I don't see it happening. Where I do see it happening is this report today does not surprise me one bit. And I hate to compare the situation. I almost put this out on X today, but it reminds me of David Tepper's infatuation with Deshaun Watson. Like he wants the big fish. He's always seeking the splash decision. And this has his name written all over it, and I wouldn't be surprised. Another interesting thing, I don't know if you've seen this report. I saw this week. I don't know how the hell I missed this. But even your boy, Cam Newton, has said, I think Tepper, knowing what I do know, he is hoping he can land Bill Belichick. He said that on his podcast, and he said that right there will be a win-win-win-win for David Tepper. So I put some weight in that because I think Cam Newton, I feel like, still has some ties there with Tepper. And then you have the interesting article out there. I think it's from, I want to say it's the Boston Globe, but I'm not entirely sure exactly what news outlet it was. I want to make sure I have this right, but see if I can find this really quickly. But they also said Carolina's a team to watch with Belichick, and this was right after the firing of Tepper. I think it was like days. Again, I don't know how much stock you put in that, but there's a lot of reports right now that are out there. So I'm not going to discount any of it. I'm also not going to discount any candidate because I've learned last year, no one fucking knows. Everyone told me Frank Reich was going to be the guy and this team would be in the playoffs and we'd be in Super Bowls or not in Super Bowls, but we'd be a contending team. That didn't happen. I don't care who the hell it is anymore. I know I was the one against Sean Payton last year because he was a Saint. I don't care anymore. I want a coach who is going to bring this team and win with this team from now on. I don't care who the fuck it is. Bring in a winner. That's all I want. That's all I care about. At no strings attached. Bring me a winner consistently year after year. And that's all I give a shit about. So I'm not going to discount anyone. You know, everyone knows who I want. It's Ben Johnson across the board, but they go out and get someone else. I hope he's a winner. I hope he turns this shit around. I hope there's a good culture here and they win again because I am tired of losing and I'm not going to shut down anyone because clearly it didn't matter last year and clearly Frank Reich was the wrong guy to do it. So that's kind of where my head's at. But for a lot of reasons you said I have reservations too about Bill. Can he get Bryce Young to the level he was at Alabama? I know he obviously would probably bring along Bill O'Brien, and I know that would steer people the wrong way because we just know what happened in Houston with him. And could he get Bryce to the level he was playing at Alabama in the NFL? Because it's a different ball game here. I think Mac Jones has played a lot in that. I know I backed him before, but I think he is a main reason why New England has struggled heavily. But then you also look at Bill and his draft. Like, he's not that great with, like, he makes some really weird decisions in the draft, like trading and doesn't give a fuck, like just weird shit. Which might be I mean, that's probably up David Tepper's alley, but like there's just some questionable decisions he's made. And I mean, he's hit on guys too. Like this year they got what I think it was this year, the Gonzalez corner, Christian Gonzalez. He played really well until he got hurt. Like Bill Belichick's going to always have a good defense. Like I don't have a doubt in my mind that would happen here. But it's the question of the offense, and that's been the question for Carolina, and that's why it's hard to believe that's the route they go. But Bill would definitely tell Tepper no, like on decisions. So like if you want a guy like that, kind of like Harbaugh, I think those are the two guys that are going to push back against Tepper the most, are those two, hands down, with all the candidates right now. I mean, I don't see anyone else that has more power than those two. And obviously, Bill would bring back what kind of Matt Rule had, which would be would David Tepper want that again, where he has sole control over everything? Like he's the GM, he's the coach. So yeah, there's a lot at play. And again, I think it has the feelings of like the Sean Payton of last year. Like, yeah, Carolina's going to be interested, but can they land the big fish again type thing? So
let's hope not.
It's just interesting shit when you're 1-12. You got to talk about something besides how shitty this offense is. But I do want to mention a guy because I know it's going to be always compared, but CJ Stroud came back down to earth this past week, and I know we all want to talk about or compare those two, but I think we saw what kind of Bryce Young has been doing with CJ Stroud, and even Texans fans were. I mean, they were feeling the fire and almost panicking. It seemed like I saw a couple tweets where they're like worried about. It's like, dude, he's a rookie. Like people, that's what I like. I think Aaron Rodgers said it best on Pat McAfee a couple of weeks ago. This is such a week by week league. Like 1 minute, Kirk Cousins is at the top of his game. He's the greatest thing for the Minnesota Vikings. The next week, he should be fired. Like that's just how fans work. And it's just like this roller coaster ride. It's like CJ Stroud's going to be fine, but he was pressured. He doesn't have weapons right now. Nico Collins went down. Tank Dell's out for the year. Dalton Schultz is injured as well. So like now he doesn't have weapons to throw to, and he struggled mightily. I don't think he passed for over 2 yards. I know he got concussed in the game and what was put out, but he struggled. And that's what Bryce Young's been dealing with. And I think Texans fans and NFL fans across the board are finally getting a taste of what Bryce Young has been dealing with in Carolina.
Yeah, and then you got the fans that are the Texans fans that were blaming the weather, but then on the other side of the field, Zach Wilson he threw for 300 yards and a couple touchdowns. So
I did not see that.
Yeah, I saw that, and CJ Stroud dealt with last week what Bryce Young has dealt with all season: no weapons, pressure, and just, I guess, bad football luck with a couple of things not going their way. And it sucks, but that's what gives me hope, because I think once this new coaching staff gets in and new front office, hopefully, they can surround him with those weapons. And maybe we get a Tank Dell-like player and a Nico Collins-like player and improve on the offensive line. And we see that third-year jump from Bryce Young. And I just think fans, unfortunately, in Carolina, have to continue to be patient. We have to hurry up and wait. And it's
yes.
We thought that it was this year, but it's not, obviously, and we got to just move on and look into next year and hope things improve and they take that next step that we were all hoping happened this year, but didn't.
Yeah, and we're not going to get into this really, but I thought it was funny because I honestly wore this shirt under a quarter zip today, and fittingly, Cam Newton is like all over. Everyone knows the I'm back moment with Cam, but Cam is fittingly all over the news right now for something he said on a podcast that football analysts say stupid shit all the time. And even if you agree or disagree with what he said, it's just like, what the hell? The guy can have an opinion. But I did want to mention something real quick because I went to Trey Boston's thing. Well, this is before we'll get into our picks for this week and talk about this game this weekend against Atlanta. But Trey Boston had a what was that? Watch party. Sorry, I was struggling there. Watch party this weekend in Charlotte. Rainy as hell. There wasn't a whole lot of people. I would say there was like 30 or 40. I think obviously the weather played into that. Carolina's record. And then there was also a bunch of PSL like watch parties that were in Charlotte, Raleigh, and some Columbia, I think South Carolina. So I understood why there wasn't a ton people there, but he did it was awesome. I just wanted to get that out there because he did not have to do that. And he's just trying to spread a little positivity because we've all been really in the shitter lately with this team. So, but yeah, hats off to him. Hey, he can do karaoke. He's got it. I mean, it was impressive. I think I'm trying to find the song as I'm talking here.
Was it Neo?
But he sang "Let It Burn" by Chris Brown, and I won't get into too much of it because you just had to be there. but he changed some of the lyrics to fit the Panthers, and it was very entertaining. So, um, and he wouldn't let us record either. So there was he said some things. It was good though. It was funny. But yeah, so just want to shout out him, and I want to shout out his foundation because he talked about this when we were there too, about the Trey Boston Beyond Belief Foundation. It basically helps underprivileged kids and adults and just tries to empower and embody their community. So if you are willing and want to give, go give to his foundation. I think they're doing a toy drive for Christmas. So I just wanted to throw that out there because, again, he did it out of the kindness of his heart to get all of us together. And I think it sounds like he'll be doing more of them. And we've golfed with him. He's just a good dude all around. So I do appreciate him. Let's get to this game this weekend. Atlanta coming to town. Carolina's wearing black helmets. I think they're going with blue jerseys this time. So I think they're doing black helmet, blue jersey, black pant. So a little bit different than they did last year when they just did all black. But I do think that because they teased that way early on, Brian Burns wore it in like a video. So I think that's what they're going with this weekend. But anyway, what do you think of this Atlanta team now? So they faced them obviously week 1. Desmond Ritter, as I say, Desmond Ritter. He got benched for a bit there. They went with Heineke, who played in Carolina. Now he's back. Ritter's back under center. What are you worried about with Atlanta?
Yeah, I mean, I think their offense is better than the Saints' offense. I think, of course, it depends on what Ritter you're getting. If you get the bad Ritter, then you don't have a whole lot to worry about. But if you get a Ritter that plays somewhat decent, I mean, like last week, I think Drake London went for like 172 yards. A really good game, and Ritter played all right. He's rushed some touchdowns, and Falcons defense, of course, what we saw week 1, they're a pretty good defense. I think that this is going to be, a hard game for Carolina, as all of them are for this team. There's not any easy games, and I think at home, I don't know, the ticket prices are like $5. You can sit in the you can coach on the sideline and call a play for 50. I mean, it's bad. I don't know if there's gonna be a whole lot of fans there. I know you're gonna be there, but
I'll be there.
Props to you for that. You are a loyal fan, Curtis, and I just think it's gonna be a close game. I don't think it's gonna be one-sided or anything. I think Atlanta's gonna win. And Carolina's going to be looking at 1-13, which makes me sick to say, but 1-13 as an NFL team.
Yeah, Atlanta's fighting for a playoff spot, which is insane. Yeah. I don't have faith in Ritter. I think he's terrible. I know you don't really probably have faith in him. I'm worried about Bijan. I think that guy is special, and they've starting to give him the rock a little bit more. In Carolina, I always just am worried with running backs against Carolina. I think they did a really nice job with Kamara, though, keeping him in check this last week. We'll see if they can do it again. But I think it's going to be a low-scoring, like typical NFC South game. It is going to be pissing out there, like rain all day long.
Oh, damn.
All day long. So this game it's going to be on the backs and not creating turnovers. For Carolina's offense. So I think that's going to be key. So that might kind of level the playing field. Who's ever running game is going to be better off, really. I mean, I was looking at the forecast. I mean, it literally is rain all day, almost across most of the state. It's crazy. That game, it might be like the Saints game a couple of years. I mean, there was like yellows and reds going across Charlotte when I was, again, things can change, but I'm like, oh, shit. Like, this is going to be brutal. So, but yeah, I think it's going to be tough. It's just until Carolina can get things, even mediocre on offense, it's tough to even pick them. It's hard. It really is because their defense does well enough every week. It's just their offense. It's the same. It's literally the same shit every week. A little wrinkle here and there, but very just same old. So what do you got for a score?
I was thinking about that. I'm gonna go low. I'm gonna go real low because of the rain that you mentioned. I'm gonna say 10-3. Atlanta wins.
That would be brutal.
Uh,
Fuck it. I'm going worse. I'm going to go, well, not worse. I guess more points. I'm going to go, I'll go 9-6 Atlanta.
oh
All
God.
field goals, just sloppy shit, and Carolina loses again. I'm not, I just can't pick Carolina right now. They're terrible. They really are. So
I think
that's
that's
where
a
I'm
fair.
at.
I think
That's
that's
where we're
fair.
going to leave it at. But we just want to thank everyone for tuning in to the Panthers on Tap podcast. You can catch our episodes wherever you get your podcast. Go give us a follow on Twitter at Panthers on Tap for all your analysis and breaking news. And as always,